Brothers and sorors, the Imperator of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC, Ralph M. Lewis.
Brothers and sorors, when we recall incidents which are not within the scope of our objective experience during this life, have we recalled events of a past incarnation, or are they the result of an involuntary projection of our consciousness into the past? Of the myriad impressions that enter our consciousness through the medium of our receptor senses, sight, hearing, and so forth, only a minute portion are intense enough as a stimulus to be fixed in memory. Those that can be readily recalled are ones upon which we have concentrated because of interest, or because they were accompanied by a strong emotional impulse. There are other impressions which have entered the subjective mind and are part of the memory, but are not on the threshold of recollection. At times, by means of an indirect association of ideas, they flash into our consciousness. Since they were forgotten perhaps years ago, we find it difficult to place them. There is, however, a vague sense of familiarity about them, and nothing more. Psychology calls these eidetic images. Another cause of these impressions is dreams, whose intensity at times awakens us with the realization that we have had some very forceful experience. The emotional reactions, even the physical ones of quick breathing or of a chill, remain after the dream. The mental impressions of the dream may slip from our objective consciousness almost immediately, as we well know. However, the impressions remain in the subconscious, and occasionally a portion of them flashes into the conscious mind again, thus as a kind of entangled ideation, that is, confused ideas. The recollection of a past incarnation contains elements that are usually quite removed in time from the period of our present life. In the majority of instances, it includes people or places which by circumstances we could not possibly have seen in this life. For example, a man may never have traveled beyond the borders of the United States of America, and he may not have read history extensively, or even descriptive travel articles. Suddenly, however, he experiences the mental picture of a French rural scene. The gardens, the architecture of the farmhouse, the costumes of the people, all of these appear quite familiar to him. The persons in the experience may be speaking in the French language, which he has never learned in this life, and yet which is entirely comprehensible to him. One might ask, how would you differentiate between this experience and that of an involuntary projection of self to the same rural section of France? In the recollection of past incarnations, one does not always experience an image of himself in the scene. At times, it is like being an invisible spectator or witnessing a story unfolding upon the motion picture screen. If one does experience himself in the circumstances of the past incarnation, he is wholly in harmony with the surroundings of it. We mean that he is attired as would be natural for the time and place of the past incarnation. There would be no inconsistency between himself, as he now is, and the other elements of the experience. The past is the past. A recollection of it must be as it was then, not as you or it may be now. It is true that the place may have been changed since your past life, but when you recall the experience of the past incarnation, it is as you knew it then, and you appeared in it, even if you do it all as you were then. If you knew the language of the country in your past life, you will be familiar with it in recalling the past incarnation. If you knew a trade or an art in the past, not known to you now, then in recalling the experience, you will find yourself proficient in it again. A projection of the consciousness is most always of what we term the present, for it is the present consciousness of self which is being projected. Past incarnations reveal themselves to us. We infrequently project to them. In the first place, objectively, we do not ordinarily know where our past lives were spent, so we cannot consciously project to them. If, however, we are successful in bringing about a projection of self without intention to a region in which we existed in the past life, we find a peculiar circumstance. It is an integration of the impressions of self, as they objectively now are, with those of the past surroundings. To understand this better, let us use the analogy of the rural French scene or countryside. If we were able to project to it, it would appear to us as we had experienced it in the former incarnation, but with the distinction that we appear there as we now exist to ourselves. Further, we might even see changes in the physical appearance of the place. This would further indicate that it was not a past incarnation we were experiencing, but a projection of our consciousness to the region of the past incarnation, but of the present time. Consequently, not only would we appear as we are, but the place would also reflect any changes that might have taken place during the years. A safe rule to follow for a distinction between a projection and a recollection of past incarnations is whether or not there is any integration, that is, unity, of the contemporary elements, the things of our present life, including ourselves, with those of the past. If we recognize ourselves or any other person or thing as they appear now, then the experience is one of projection. Conversely, if we are able to accomplish something or exhibit talents which are not natural to us in this incarnation, we can be certain that we have recollected the events of a past incarnation. We wish to admonish you again that the familiarity which a place or custom may seem to have to us, though an excellent prima facie evidence of a past incarnation, must not be accepted as an absolute proof. It is first necessary that we make certain that we were actually never taken to this place as a small child, and that we have never seen or heard a parallel description of it. As Dr. H. Spencer Lewis, our venerable past imperator, points out in his excellent work, The Mansions of the Soul, familiarity of incidents or things of a past incarnation usually develops into more tangible evidence. It is a tangible evidence which is a reliable proof. He explains in the above work the example of a young man who visited a chateau in France for the first time in his present incarnation. The young man was on a casual sightseeing tour. Immediately upon entering the premises, the particular architectural structure, the arrangement of the grounds, all caused a strange impression upon him. He knew he had seen these things before, somewhere, somehow. Further, various objects suggested others that were not even visible, such as an entrance behind a tangle of brush that led to an old wine cellar in disuse for more than a century. A mere suggestion of familiarity could have been easily discredited on the grounds that perhaps the person may have read of such a place in a novel, and that might have caused them to have a vague similarity. However, in this particular case, the association of ideas caused the young man, while he was walking about the premises, to recall the location of an old, forgotten wine cellar. This certainly could not just be termed a coincidence. only one who had been on the premises before could find, in the particular arrangement of the pathways, the reminder that one of the paths led to the forgotten entrance. Again, we must issue a repeated and necessary admonishment. It is that our fratres and sorors do not too deeply concern themselves with past incarnations. Let such remain in the past as much as possible. They have served their purpose in contributing to the formation and development of the soul personality which you are now expressing. There is nothing more than that those past incarnations can contribute to your welfare by a review of them, except to confirm the doctrine of reincarnation. Remember, fathers and sorors, that you are now living what someday will pass into the category of another incarnation. It is advisable then to cause this incarnation, the present one, to exert a tremendous efficacy for good on your soul personality. So mote it be.